Okay. Given Huawei's extremely recent patent filings in collaboration with Canadian universities in sensitive areas like 5G and AI, how does CSIS assess the risk these partnerships pose to national security in Canada?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is, I think, the crux of the issue here. We have the PRC has been very transparent in its approach. Has put in place new legislation that forces any company, any organization, any person of Chinese origin to be collaborating with the intelligence service. So in the case of a company like the one like Huawei, we have, irrespective of their intent, I will not speak about their intent at the moment, but irrespective of that, they are under obligation, if required, to share their information. So if we go a little bit above and beyond this organization, I think any kind of data they access, any kind of personal identifying information about Canadians through different research projects, any facial recognition, data they receive, all of this is of concern because what we know, both through intelligence but also through open source, is that there is an organized system to take all of this data, to collate it, to apply artificial intelligence algorithms against them, and to be able to develop, an advantage for the PRC that is then turned to aggressive tactics, but also development of military technology turned against us.
Yeah, we're basically giving them the information to fight us with the research that we're doing, so that is very concerning. Minister Champagne also claimed during their last meeting that creating non-binding guidelines is somehow better than just banning entities that pose risk to national security. Does CSIS believe non-binding guidelines are enough to protect against high-risk entities?
Mr. Chair, I think what is important here is the behavior of the people. And so right now we have seen a change in behavior. The granting councils, the universities, everybody wants to work together. Everybody understands the threat. And I think if you develop an ecosystem of compliance, I think the people who are not want to comply will become fairly evident in all of this, and we'll be able to direct our activity more specifically at these people. So I'm agnostic about from a national security point of view about if they are voluntary or not.
Hey, well, I guess I'm very concerned about the fact that universities seem to be more concerned about getting money from partnerships as opposed to national security. Do you feel this is also potentially true?
Do you want me to take questions?
I think, if I may, I think part of that challenge is changing the culture. I mean, there's a long history. Our universities have established partnerships for quite some time. And so part of what we're doing and part of why we have non-binding guidelines and why we've been engaging for a period of time is to start that education process. And as I said earlier, to make sure that people are able to make informed decisions on their own and not just rely solely on government. And so I think it's an incremental approach to getting towards those areas where we say these institutions and these technologies are the most sensitive and need to be dealt with.
So, Director Vigneault, at the Five Eyes conference, you raised warnings about Beijing's actions in Canadian universities. Where specifically is the Liberal government failing short in the countering these threats?
Mr. Chair, thank you for the question. I will focus my comments on from a national security point of view. I would say that what we are seeing is a fairly significant change in the last 4 or 5 years. Not just from an intelligence point of view, us sharing more, but everybody else realizing that the environment has changed. That the threat coming at us has changed in its intensity, velocity, and by the number of actors. And I am, on the one end, comforted with the fact that people are taking this very seriously. On the other, I'm very nervous about the intensity of that threat.
Thank you. We went over, but it was important to get that thought on the table.
Director, you just said that it's working. The system's working. It just needs fine-tuning. Is that correct?
I think I said we need to put it in overdrive.
In overdrive. So there's patents that have been filed in Canada with association with Huawei, with the University of Toronto this year. Obviously, that's not working, right? Would that be an example of this not working?
Mr. Chair, I have a level of awareness about the transaction, but not enough details to speak specifically to that. I think that we have to be careful to not look at a specific activity and determine, that it is nefarious in and of itself. But I would not have enough details to share with the committee today to say if those specific patterns that have been filed.
But just on Huawei. So you're saying that CSIS is comfortable with some research dollars from the taxpayer of Canada going to Huawei?
Mr. Chair, I believe that I have not said that. What I've said, however, to our previous question is that we are very concerned about organizations who are subject to the legislation of the PRC, who are, if and when forced, will be able to share and will be acting on the behalf of the government of the PRC. So from that point of view, we do have a very high level of concerns, and this is why we have been speaking publicly and redirecting many more of our investigative resources to counter that threat.
But so just back to this one company. It's obviously you've well versed on the dealings of Huawei. There's a list that has been promised to be out that will ban different identities to work with universities in Canada with taxpayers' dollars for funding. In what world would Huawei not be on that list?
You want to take that?
Well, first of all, the list isn't out, so you will have to wait.
So there is an internal list that's getting compiled, I'm assuming, right?
So that's the entities list.
Yes.
Yes. So that is being compiled. Advice will be given to the government, and the government will release that list when it is ready to do so.
So the government has that list, you're saying?
I'm saying that we are developing advice and have given advice to the government, and the government will release that list when it's prepared to do so.
So the problem is that the list that you provided to government, they didn't act on. And now we have another fall submission of different funding applications that have been approved. Do you not see the problem here? You've briefed the government on this list, and they're not acting. Back to why wouldn't we just, if it's that difficult to make a full list, we can start with a partial list. And why wouldn't Huawei be number one on that list, banned that not to receive an additional nickel from the taxpayers of this country?
So I won't comment right now on who is or what companies are or will not be on that list. I do think it's important to remember we are a country of laws, and Huawei exists in Canada in a legal way. And so we can't completely ban the activities of Huawei as long as it exists within Canadian law. So we do need to pay attention to your point earlier about whether taxpayer funding and money goes towards organizations that may or may not be on that list. And I think that is what the government is grappling with right now, is trying to find ways that it can construct that list in respect of who operates in this country, in respect of
Thank you
those
for that. I'm going to
partnerships.
pass my time along to my colleague.